Hey everyone, welcome back to the Saw Apex channel, and today I'm going to be answering one of the most common questions that I get asked on Twitch about Revenant.
Floppy, can you give me some tips on Revenant?
I would love to be able to give some easier tips for the character that's now become meta, but ever since he got reworked, I feel like I can't really offer some unique tips. It used to be so easy to give tips for with putting totem on a door for blocking and stuff, but now he is so strong and easy to play. It's kind of hard to come up with good tips other than just me telling you to ult and then leap at people. So I guess just do that and hope for the best.
Well, then what are your tips for the tactical then if it's so easy?
I think being able to use the tactical and aggressive way is super important because at surface level it's an incredible disengage, which he's always needed, and that's kind of why he's so much better now, is that you can get away from a fight. But some of the best things to do with your tactical would be, ever since they removed the animation cancel, because they claimed it as a bug, you want to really learn the arch of the tactical. So when you get close towards the enemy partway through the leap, you want that sort of area for you to hit the ground in a slide, because what that's going to do is allow you to pull out your gun and then maybe tap strafe it back around, or keep the momentum going and just be able to defend yourself as soon as you land. You used to be able to do it mid-air with the glide cancel, but now you have to make an effort to hit the ground and then be able to be aggressive off of being able to pull your gun out. So I think that's probably the most important thing to learn for the tactical. So what you used to be able to do was you would mantle an area and glide off of an item, and if you cast it in the air, it would put your gun in your hand. But now you can't do that anymore, so you want to hit the ground, and now your gun's going to come out as soon as you hit the ground. So if you do that, you can then play off of it. I would land here and then tap straight back around with my gun out and attack.
If you're in a fight, when do you use your tactical and when do you push?
It's important to get an opening crack. I won't always do this, but if you get an opening crack on maybe one or two legends in the enemy team, for example, if I'm stood at this position and I shoot over here and I crack you there, I can now push off of my tactical. You can climb whilst in your tactical, and I can glide over here and then tap straight back around. It's going to pull my gun out and you're going to be low, so I have the advantage, and it's really hard to track a Revenant that's tap strafing out of a queue or something like that, especially when you have your ult on. So that's how I'd use the tactical to gain an advantage in a fight. Mostly want to open with a crack first.
That's a good segue to the next question. If the opponent is standing over here and then you push, when do you use the ult if it's really simple?
This is why the ult is so hard to give tips for now, because technically, if you have your ult, there is never any reason to not use it unless you know you're just fighting one enemy. If you're fighting one enemy, I mean, technically you could argue that there would be no reason to not use your ult in a 1v1, because it's going to grant you the easiest 1v1 of your life, because you're going to have more HP than them. So technically you should always use your ult, but if you don't feel like wasting it, maybe, it's been nerfed a few times, so now the duration refresh upon knock is shorter. So if a third party arrives maybe 10 seconds later than what you need, your ult may run out by the time they arrive. So if you're confident in taking a team, maybe you've gotten multiple cracks on them first, or maybe you think they're moving bad and they're not very good players and you want to take them out super easily without your ult on, do that first and then cast your ult for the next team. But it doesn't hurt to ever cast your ult. If you're in a fight and you have it, especially if you're carrying ult excels, I'd suggest just using it all the time. But it isn't a bad thing to not use it, because sometimes you're not going to be able to get 3 knocks and refresh your ult in time for another team to arrive, because it only refreshes 3 seconds per knock, as it used to be 10 seconds.
What about his passive? That's one thing that we just skipped over technically. What do you think about his passive?
I think his passive is... with the changes that they gave it, I honestly think it's borderline perfect, except, I mean, now they've given him wall hacks with the low HP buff. We're talking about the climbing, it's a different story, but the wall hack passive, I'm definitely not a fan, just because it feels so unnecessary on him and almost too strong. I don't understand why he has the ability to wall hack people just because he's, got them low HP. It's really, really busted. Like, I think where it's most important is when you're playing peaks with people. If you're peeking this wall and I'm peeking this wall and we exchange and your HP is lower than mine, sorry, if your HP is lower than the threshold for the wall hacks rather, I can see you through this wall whilst I'm unpeaking, and I know when you're going to peek because I have the walls on you. So if you're going to ego chow me because I'm also low, I'm gonna have first shot on you because I know that you're peeking the passive. So I think that was overall an unnecessary. Sure, I like using it in game because it's busted, but that part I don't really love too much. But in terms of the wall running, I think it's one of the best passives in the game now. I'm not really too mad at the whole inability to wall bounce like every other character. That used to be a problem because I felt like his passive just wasn't really strong enough. Doing the wall run chaining and stuff, it's fun, but it's also kind of niche and way harder to learn than a regular wall bounce. So yeah, tactical, it's niche when you use it for wall running, but in a place like this, arguably the best POI in the game for Revenant's passive, there's going to be times where even I use this move and someone can easily destroy me out of it. It just depends on what your timing is, what their timing is of coming up the staircase in their line of sight. And it also depends is if they stand in your way and they body block you, you're going to fall off the wall and just get one clipped. If there's two people in the corridor, this is 10 times more likely. Well, what you can do to negate this, I guess, would be to one, enter the wall at the corner because it's way faster to hit that fast wall bounce off the corner, and then you can do a really quick 1-2 off the walls or any more jumps that you want to do. And you also want to kind of time it based off of audio. If you hear someone coming up the stairs or like just in front of the stairs, if you enter the wall run before, then they're going to not see you over their heads at all, and they probably won't hear you either. You can loop literally around this entire wall. It's the best spot in the game for him. So yeah, there's ways to make it work. There's also ways for it to not work.
So my final question for you as we wrap up everything. How do you keep Revenant so iconic, and what do you find so frustrating about him now, even though we just talked about a lot of positives?
I think it is worth clarifying that I will always be more happy with this version of Rev than the previous. Even though I've got my complaints about the current one, it is nothing in comparison to how much I disliked the previous kit, because I really only liked the passive. The silence was okay, but the totem was just awful. So I do prefer this Rev. However, when you take a character that was arguably the worst in the game with a very unique movement tech, and then you throw on arguably one of the best sets of abilities in the game and everyone starts using them, it's really hard to stand out now. I do still see myself as that Revenant player, but it's harder to do and keep that reputation up when anyone can pick up this character and be good with them now. You don't even have to like use the wall running on Rev for it to be really strong. He's so strong even without the passive. So I think a lot of people just see Rev as this broken tank legend now, and it's kind of sad. Feels a little less iconic, even though the passive is still really sick. And that's really all I can think that I do, is that people still don't really do a lot of the passive stuff like this on the walls, especially, you know, people who just want to plug in the character and use the ult, and then comboing it with his tactical. I think the key to being unique on this legend is the way you combo all the abilities together. I think it's very different to watch someone who's just gonna pass their ult and leap forward, and not use the synergy that the passive has with the rest of the kit, versus someone like me, where I feel like I'm pretty good at using his entire kit together in a really cohesive way, and showing off the synergy of the abilities, the way you can combo. You know, if I was to ult before entering this building and just swing on the staircase, use my passive, get over someone's head to pump them, maybe leap across the other end of the room or something to reposition, get a bat off, blah blah blah. I think that's how I stand out now, is just by using his kit overall together and having it glued together in a way that other players don't have, purely based off of my knowledge and habits that I developed of the passive before he got his rework. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this has answered your really common questions. If you want to check me out, you can catch me at twitch.tv/Guapi with 4 E's on Twitch, and then if you want to check me on YouTube, it's with 2 E's on the end.